The confirmation of Al Horford's arrival at Golden State hit the NBA news cycle like a shock, one of those announcements that immediately redefine expectations. For weeks, everything seemed like nothing more than backstage rumors, fueled by insider speculation and the hopes of fans. Many doubted it was real after all. This was an 18-season veteran with 5 All-Star appearances, someone who had seriously considered retirement. But the doubt is gone. The Dominican will wear the jersey of the Californian franchise. This moment carries something symbolic. The Warriors and Horford crossed paths over the years, but only in isolated regular season circumstances or occasional playoff series. Now, at a stage when many already say farewell to the courts, he finds the opportunity to perhaps write the most important chapter of his journey, fighting for a title that would finally cement his legacy. Beyond a contract, it is the chance to etch his name into an organization marked by greatness. On the fans' side, the narrative is strong. There is a special emotion in seeing someone who could have walked away in June decide it was not yet the time, that there was still fuel left in the tank. He accepted a defined role, aware that, to conquer something collective, it was necessary to adjust his individual ambitions. In an environment increasingly driven by astronomical figures, that stance touches those who follow closely. It reminds us that there are still stories of sacrifice and devotion, that basketball is not only about numbers, but also about soul. On the court, the challenge is clear. Steve Kerr will have to figure out how to integrate Horford into a system famous for its complexity. The coach demands discipline in constant motion, impeccable conditioning, and lightning-fast game reading. If anyone fits that profile, it is Horford. His entire career has been marked by intelligence, by being in the right place and making the right play. Even at an advanced age, the Dominican maintains above-average conditioning and refined tactical vision. One can imagine, for instance, an alternative lineup with Stephen Curry, Seth Curry, Draymond Green, Horford, and Trace Jackson-Davis. The blend of this group brings shooting, defense, youth, and experience. With Horford as the connective pivot at the top of the key, Stephen Curry would gain even more freedom to move without the ball, receiving screens and exploiting space. Seth Curry would stretch the floor further still, forcing opposing defenses into painful choices. The result could be an offensive machine that, if tuned properly, would have devastating potential. But the impact would not be restricted to offense. There are scenarios where Horford would be a key piece in defensive formations, especially against opponents with dominant wings. Alongside Draymond, he would form a flexible front line, capable of protecting the rim, switching assignments, and still contesting long-range shots. That kind of resource is vital in the playoffs, where fine adjustments decide entire series. Beyond the technical aspect, there is the weight of experience. Horford has lived through almost everything in the NBA: dramatic wins, painful defeats, intense battles. In moments of greatest pressure, when the spotlight often paralyzes young talent, he will be the one able to bring calm, to guide, and to steady the team. This type of leadership does not show up in statistics, but often decides games. His arrival also influences internal narrative. Jonathan Kuminga, a youngster still seeking consolidation, now finds a valuable mentor. The renewal of the youngster is a priority for the franchise. But more than that, he will have the chance to learn from a living example of discipline and longevity. Horford seems to have been chosen not only for what he offers on the court, but also for his ability to teach off it. If Kuminga absorbs part of what the Dominican represents, the Warriors' future becomes even brighter. Across the league, the ripple effect is inevitable. The West was already extremely competitive, with Nuggets, Timberwolves, Suns, and Mavericks fighting tooth and nail. Now, there is one more variable on the board. Tiny details can separate glory from elimination, and Horford has the potential to be precisely that detail. It is not about making him the absolute star, but about recognizing that his skills fill gaps that once cost dearly. The comparison with other impactful veterans is natural. Iguodala at the Warriors, P.J. Tucker in different rosters, all with seemingly discrete roles, yet decisive when it matters most. Horford could follow that path, becoming the piece that does not need headlines, but delivers what makes the difference in May and June. From the outside, some will see it as just another signing, But those who follow closely know we are witnessing a move that could redefine the season. Golden State did not just bring in a veteran center. They brought wisdom, balance, and an aura of confidence that may have been missing. And so, the coming season becomes a great test. For Kerr, who will have to orchestrate valuable pieces. For Kuminga, who must evolve and justify the trust. For Horford, who must prove he can still compete among the best. And for the franchise, which must prove it can still sustain its dynastic identity even under new financial rules and the aging of some idols. At the core, it all revolves around choices. Horford chose to postpone retirement. The Warriors chose to bet on his experience. Kuminga will be tested as the future, and the fans, as always, will choose to believe that this group can carry them into another title run. Whether it works, only time will tell, but the initial feeling is that the team has armed itself in the best possible way for what lies ahead. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the basketball world, a young giant named Sotto continues to write his own story. His recent return to the court was electrifying. 20 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists against Kyoto. More than statistics, the performance showed maturity. From the start, it was clear he was ready to assume a leading role. Combining height, mobility, and technique, he dominated the paint, leaving opponents without answers. His mid-range shot, increasingly polished, reflected his dedication to improvement. His court vision, evident in key assists, connected teammates in crucial moments. In the third quarter, he produced a defining sequence, dribbling past 2 defenders, sinking a vital basket, and completing the play with a free throw after the foul. Moments like that ignite crowds and prove his ability to perform under pressure. Kai is nearing symbolic milestones. He is just 76 points shy of reaching 1,000 career points in the B-League, and has already surpassed 500 rebounds. Few manage to combine offensive and defensive impact in this way. He needs only 4 more assists to reach 100, underscoring that he is not just a finisher, but also a creator of opportunities. These numbers are not cold figures. They are indicators of the real impact he generates night after night. His name is beginning to appear in international analyses. Comparisons with historic centers are emerging, highlighting his rare blend of size, skill, and intelligence. But for Kai, more important than records is constant growth. He wants to get better every game, leaving his mark on every arena he steps into. It is no coincidence his future has become a hot topic. Among the speculated NBA destinations, Golden State stands out. The franchise's fans have already started campaigns on social media calling for his arrival. It is easy to see why. The team lacks a dominant presence in the paint, someone who can balance the game between perimeter and inside. Kai offers exactly that. His style of play, shaped by international experiences, would be a natural fit in a roster used to pace and movement. For the Warriors, it would be a low-risk, high-potential gamble. For Kai, it would be the chance to fast-track his definitive entry into the NBA. The match seems natural. A promising youngster seeking space and a legendary franchise looking for renewal. If it happens, the impact could be immediate. Fans know that talents with Kai's profile are rare, and many believe he could be the missing piece to put the team back on top. When thinking about Kai's arrival at a team like Golden State, the imagination runs wild. Visualizing a lineup where the youth of a rising center connects with the experience of established veterans creates an electrifying prospect. It is not just about fitting statistics together, but about combining playing philosophies. The Warriors have always stood out for their creativity, their intelligent use of space, and their trust in the long-range shot. By introducing Kai into this context, the team would gain a new layer of versatility, a center capable of protecting the rim, dominating rebounds, and at the same time participating in fast and dynamic plays. It is curious to note how the franchise, in recent years, has been looking for alternatives to strengthen precisely this part of the roster. The absence of a dominant presence in the paint has been a constant target of criticism. Despite their talent in other areas, they lacked someone capable of commanding respect on defense and securing second chances on offense. Kai would fit into this void almost as if he were a predestined piece, bringing balance to a system that has so often needed to reinvent itself. The emotional factor cannot be ignored either. Horford arrives as a symbol of resilience, someone who has seen it all and decided to extend his journey. Kai, on the other hand, represents the new, the freshness of a talent who still dreams big and carries with him a legion of fans who see him as an ambassador of Asian basketball. The union of these two sides of the narrative would create a fascinating bridge, experience and youth coexisting in the same locker room, exchanging lessons, sharing responsibilities, and broadening horizons. For the fans, the possibility of having Horford and Kai on the same roster sparks the imagination. Picture a scenario where, in a given rotation, Horford leaves the court after laying the foundation of organization and leadership, and Kai comes in, bringing explosive energy and physical presence. The opponent would have to deal with two completely different readings of the same team, something that increases unpredictability and therefore competitive advantage. Rival coaches know well how this kind of diversity complicates any game plan. In the playoffs, every adjustment counts. If the Warriors managed to alternate between Horford's tactical intelligence and Kai's dominant force, the franchise would then have answers for different styles of opponents. Against teams that rely on explosive forwards, the Dominican's experience could be the key. Against rosters with imposing centers, the young Filipino would be the impact piece. This duality would be a trump card of inestimable value. Looking ahead, Kai also carries symbolism that goes beyond the court. His growth in Japan and his popularity in the Philippines have transformed him into a cultural icon, attracting the eyes of markets the NBA is eager to expand into. A potential move to Golden State would have an immediate effect in terms of global visibility, further strengthening the image of a franchise already renowned for its international reach. On the court, however, the focus is development. Kai knows he will need to raise his level in order to establish himself in the world's most competitive environment. His dedication to improving his shot, his ability to read the game, and his willingness to learn all indicate that he is ready for the leap. Alongside established names, his learning curve would accelerate. He would not be just a rookie seeking space. He would have around him world-class references to shape his mentality and style of play. Horford's impact on this process would be immense. With nearly 2 decades of experience, he would become a sort of natural guide. The way the Dominican conducts the game, values the collective, and maintains discipline could serve as the perfect mirror for Kai. It is as if the Warriors were uniting in one roster the past that teaches and the future that promises. This idea of continuity is what sustains many dynasties in sport. Teams that know how to balance generations manage to extend victorious cycles. Golden State, by simultaneously betting on a veteran and a rising youngster, would be signaling exactly that, the desire to keep the flame alive, not settling only for memories, but writing new chapters of glory. Comparisons with similar moves in NBA history become inevitable. One only needs to recall when championship teams chose to blend youth and experience strategically. That was how legendary teams maintained their prominence even as stars aged. Horford and Kai together could represent that link for the Warriors, one providing immediate stability, the other projecting longevity. Yet there is one detail that makes everything even more interesting: pressure. The NBA's new collective bargaining agreement has imposed financial limits that tighten every roster decision. There is no margin for error. Signings must have purpose and a clear return. In this scenario, both Horford and Kai offer precisely that. The first, with low risk and high tactical contribution. The second, with growth potential and long-term impact. It is the synthesis of what any management seeks. And that is why the upcoming season is already loaded with expectation. Fans, analysts, and even rivals watch closely. There is curiosity to see whether Horford can maintain his form and play the balancing role. And there is anxiety to discover whether Kai will truly take the next step towards the NBA. This junction of trajectories, which in theory seems so distant, could very well meet at a common point: the Golden State locker room. If that happens, basketball will have one of those stories that combine drama, emotion, and symbolism. Horford, the tireless warrior who refused to stop, and Kai, the young giant who carries the dreams of an entire nation sharing the same uniform. For the NBA, it would be a feast of narratives. For the Warriors, it would be the chance to align past, present, and future in a single season. With each practice, with each game, new pieces would fall into place. What today is still speculation could become tangible reality. The technical impact would join the emotional impact, and the result could be a team even better prepared to fight for achievements. In the end, everything depends on the orange ball, but there is no denying it. The ground is fertile for this story to come true. When analyzing the potential impact of a season with Horford on the roster and the possibility of Kai joining the group, it is inevitable to also consider how the Golden State environment can accelerate personal and collective transformations. The Californian franchise's locker room has always been a unique space, marked by intensity, discipline, and, at the same time, by a spirit of creativity that sets the team apart. For young players like Kai, this immersion is equivalent to an advanced basketball course, where every training session becomes a lesson and every game a practical exam. The power of a winning culture cannot be underestimated. Players who arrive at champion teams often experience an immediate leap in performance simply by absorbing the standard of excellence. This is a factor that goes beyond the physical aspect. It is mentality. Kai, coming from a context in which he was already a standout, would have to deal with the challenge of adapting to an environment where talent alone is not enough. Focus, discipline, and resilience are also necessary. And it is precisely at this point that Horford would become an essential piece. The Dominican, accustomed to dealing with different stages of his career, would understand like few others the importance of guiding a promising rookie. He knows that the path is not made only of victories, but also of difficult nights, of painful defeats, and of criticism that tests confidence. The ability to guide Kai through these moments could be the difference between wasted talent and a consolidated future in the NBA. It is as if Horford were, at the same time, teammate and tutor, someone willing to pass on the wisdom acquired in almost 20 years of the league. For the Warriors, this symbiosis would have yet another value. The franchise is facing a moment of redefinition. It is no longer just about repeating the formula that worked, but about finding ways to remain relevant in an increasingly unpredictable scenario. The presence of Horford brings immediate stability, but the inclusion of Kai would point to a longer horizon. It would be a sign that the team is not only concerned with the next season, but also with the next decade. From a strategic point of view, the possibilities are endless. With Horford, Kerr can plan safe rotations, knowing he has someone reliable to perform critical functions. With Kai, the chance arises to experiment with bolder formations, using his height and mobility to impose a hybrid style of play. This combination of the safe and the unpredictable could become a fundamental asset when the playoffs arrive, because teams that can adapt quickly tend to survive longer. On the international stage, the impact would be immediate. The NBA is a global spectacle, and every player who carries with him an entire country of fans expands that dimension. Kai represents millions of passionate Filipino basketball fans, one of the most fervent audiences in the world. His arrival at a legendary franchise would be a milestone, attracting even more attention to the team and creating a cultural bridge that goes far beyond sport. For Golden State, this would mean an expansion of its brand in a strategic region, something that also weighs in market decisions. But it is not just marketing. On the court, Kai would have the chance to show whether he is capable of sustaining the expectation. What are currently impressive numbers in the B-League would need to translate into consistency against the best on the planet. This process is never simple, but his combination of size, technique, and mentality suggests that he has the tools necessary to make the leap, and having Horford by his side on this journey would reduce the risks, serving as a support network in the most complex moments. For the fans, this narrative carries something almost cinematic. On one side, a veteran who, instead of ending his career, decided to take one more step in search of glory. On the other, a young giant trying to turn a dream into reality. Together they could write a story of transition, showing that basketball is made of cycles, and that the greatness of a franchise lies precisely in its ability to unite different generations in pursuit of the same goal. It is impossible not to imagine the emotional impact that decisive games would have with these characters on the stage. A playoff series in which Horford holds the defense with unshakable calm, while Kai comes in to change the dynamic with energy and physical imposition. The images would be etched not only in the fans' memory, but also in the history of the league, because in the end, it is not only statistics that define the sport, but the narratives that are built in parallel with every contested ball. What is at stake, therefore, is more than victories or defeats. It is legacy. Horford wants to prove that he can still be relevant and end his journey at the highest level. Kai seeks to prove that he deserves a place in the NBA and that he can become a reference not only for his country, but for the entire Asian continent. And the Warriors want to reaffirm that they remain one of the epicenters of world basketball, capable of reinventing themselves without losing identity. The coming season could become the stage for this intersection of dreams and objectives. And if everything fits together as it seems, the coming months will have the potential to redefine not only the franchise's path, but also the way basketball is perceived in different parts of the world. And so, between Horford's experience and Kai's promise, the Warriors prepare for a season that can unite past, present, and future in the same path. Basketball shows, once again, that it is not just a game of statistics, but of stories that inspire, move, and challenge the impossible. If all this comes true, we will be witnessing one of the most fascinating narratives of recent years in the NBA. If you have followed along to this point, you already know. What lies ahead promises to be historic. So don't forget to support this work. Leave your like right now, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell. Only then will you not miss any updates about the Warriors, about Horford, about Kai, and about everything that can change in the basketball universe. Your participation is the fuel that keeps this community alive. Thank you for being here, and see you in the next chapter of this passionate journey.